Hey, I liked your piece. I want to start with this. I liked your piece on Goldschmidt. I thought now I can't write it because people are going to think I lifted it from you. But I thought I thought it was really, really, really good because the idea of extending Goldschmidt is not a bad idea, and you pointed out all the underlying stuff on him are actually quite positive. There's no signs of slippage with all the stuff that you can really look at. Hard hit rate, barrel rate, all the things that you cited. But on the other hand, they can't go nuts in terms of like some kind of long-term deal after next season. But I don't think there's anything to just like do the Chicken Little about this notion of, well, don't even re-sign him. So why don't you talk us through that? I thought it was a really smart piece.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of view it as an inevitability at this point. If they're going to re-sign Goldschmidt, I think both sides have said they're interested, and it's a very Cardinals move to make, to lock him up for presumably the rest of his career. And we all know the numbers dropped last season, at least superficially. But I think if you, kind of as you hinted at, if you drill down into some of the batted ball quality and that sort of thing, you find he got pretty lucky in his 2022 season when he won MVP and pretty unlucky last year. So I think the expectation for him, at least in the near term, is something in between that. And the Cardinals can absolutely live with that during this, current window of presumed contention. Next season and maybe a year beyond that. It's going to come down to what they sign him to. I have a hard time believing that they'll commit to a player his age for more than 3, maybe 4 years. And if that can be the case, I think it's pretty reasonable to keep him around. I'm not worried about Jordan Walker being blocked and maybe getting moved to first base because he was a pleasant surprise in the way he developed his defense out in right field. So that doesn't really worry me anymore. That was a concern for me for a while, but not really anymore. So why not? I think it's a sensible move as long as it's not a, hugely long deal, and I don't think it will be. So it makes some sense from my standpoint.
I wanted to ask you about this, and as a reader and a fan, I hope you and I know you're busy with the World Series about to start. CBSSports.com, you do such great work there. Anybody can access that. Follow Dayn on Twitter, by the way, at Dayn Perry, Dayn Perry, at Dayn Perry. I wonder what your thoughts are on Nolan Arenado. If you go across the board with just the basic stats that you can find at Fangraphs or Baseball Reference, I mean, offensively, this was his worst season since 2013. Now, he really did have a down year. And maybe the back figured into that. I'm not sure. That's what I'm saying. Do you have a take on that? Do you have any quick analysis as far as what you make of it, if anything?
I have a yellow light on Arenado right now. Just the, obviously he repaired his defensive issues mid-season last year, so that's encouraging. He can still, I think, be a plus fielder over there at third base. But the offensive struggles, and those are pretty concerning as a player who moves into his 30s, as Arenado has. And, I like being able to explain that away by the back issues, but at the same time, a hitter in his 30s with back issues is kind of troubling in its own right. Those could be the kinds of injuries that recur and sap power, and especially as you get older and older and you have a lot of, high-impact mileage on you, as third basemen tend to. I'm giving Arenado a yellow light. I would like to see I think Pete Arenado at the plate may be gone for good, but let's see a bit of a bounce back from him in 2024, and I think that would be that'd be very encouraging considering the length of the commitment there. And so I'm a bit concerned about Arenado.
Yeah, again, great phrase. You put a yellow light. That's perfect. That's kind of would sum up how I feel, but. I don't want to just throw everything away. Well, it was one of those years. Those guys were all frustrated, and all that's true. Right. I mean, it certainly wasn't the happiest time to be a Cardinal in 2023. But in Arenado's case, I mean, the guy's so super intense, which to his credit, but I think he really feels stuff when it's not going well. I mean, This probably, and I'm not trying to be a smart aleck. I mean, he thought he escaped from Colorado, and the Cardinals had a Rockies-like season this year. I can only imagine how he felt after like a lot of these really bad games. So he's going to have to exhale and regroup, I think, too.
Yeah, and you hope that if he is playing for something like he did this season, that he does communicate about it, and that Marmol has what it takes to tell him, hey, you need to sit out a few days and not just DH. We're going to sit you down and that sort of thing, because you do have to start playing even more in the long game with guys Arenado's age with back problems and that kind of thing. So he's going to require, I think, some careful management in 2024 if that back is still any kind of an issue.
And one of the newsy things going on with the Cardinals right now, and Yadier Molina kind of raised the ante a little bit, if you will. He was on a radio station in Puerto Rico and was very, I think emphatic's not an over. I'm not overstating it. I think he was pretty emphatic that he would like to coach for the Cardinals, and the Cardinals, something's cooking. The Cardinals are interested in him. I mean, there wasn't any real specifics, but it sounds like he's, unless he backtracks, I mean, he sounds full go on this, at least right now. And what are your thoughts about him being, all we can do is use a hypothetical. But let's just say, for the purpose of conversation, if they do actually make him a full-time coach, not a visiting coach or anything like that. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, it doesn't strike me as a bad idea. I mean,
no,
a franchise icon like that coming back, and at a time when the fan base could probably use a little lift, I think makes a lot of sense. And let's face it, there were significant communication issues between pitchers and catcher Wilson Contreras last year. And who better to smooth those over than the guy they were so lonely for all year, those pitchers, in Yadier Molina. So I think it makes a lot of sense from that standpoint, given his knowledge of pitching and his strong personality. I think he's an ideal guy maybe to get in there and maybe even advocate for his replacement behind the plate and kind of whip those pitchers into shape a little in terms of sucking it up and dealing with current circumstances. So I kind of like the idea. It'd be good to see him in the dugout again.
I could be off about this, but it seems to me he would be a plus, maybe even a major plus, when the Cardinals go out and try to convince a starting pitcher or two to sign with them, because his reputation is off the charts. I mean, he's the guy for the last 18, 19 years pitchers have heard about. He's a savant behind the plate. He makes everybody better. I would think that would make the Cardinals more appealing.
That certainly makes sense to me, and I think that's also an important aspect of it. So make it happen as far as I'm concerned.
Aaron Nola, Yadier Molina will prevent your 2023 season from happening again. Come on down. No, there you go, right? I'll ask you sort of a Cardinals-related question. And again, with your duties and excellent work at CBSSports.com, you're on top of everything. But, you got the mess out in San Diego, and Bob Melvin said, I got to get out of here. I got to get away from A.J. Preller. So he's going to be the Giants' new manager. And, all of the San Diego speculation, the San Diego Union Tribune, I think their beat writers are really good. Same with The Athletic. They think it's going to come down to Ryan Flaherty, a 37-year-old coach who seems to be been groomed by A.J. Preller. And then you got Mike Shildt there, and he's considered a strong candidate. And it's even been mentioned maybe he's the leading candidate. And I don't know how to handicap it, but do you think if Shilt's going to go into another managing job, does this one have, I'll use your phrase, does this one come with yellow lights? Is there a warning there? It seems like the Padres are a place where managerial careers, some of them just go to die. They're so dysfunctional. What's your take on all that?
Yeah, it does. And, but again, there's 30 of these jobs in the world, and I don't know that Shildt could afford to be too picky.
Yeah.
I do think there is a significant chance for a bounce back, which, that credit for that would accrue to Shildt most likely. This team, the Padres, just had a completely bizarre off-the-rails season in terms of losing extra inning games and losing one-run games and hitting with runners in scoring position. And those kind of things tend to self-correct from one year to another. And I think they're going to get a bounce for that reason alone. And that makes Shildt look like a very prudent hire. You look beyond that, there are some concerns. He would be Preller's guy, and Preller may be on a bit of a bit of thin ice moving forward if next season doesn't go as planned. So that could, lead to a new GM who wants his hand-picked manager, et cetera, et cetera. But on the other hand of that, you've got an owner in Peter Seidler who's pretty invested in winning and willing to spend. So, not a perfect situation, but I think it's a good situation to kind of reestablish Shildt in the profession. And I think he deserves it, given the way he has here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. Yeah, totally. I agree with you. And I'm going to ask you this question, and before I ask it, I'm going to, note that the Cardinals just had a brutal season, and it's easy to blame everything on the manager. So in kind of the heated aftermath of their worst season since 1990, maybe some opinions on this would be, skewed. So having put that caveat out there, let me ask you this. Now that Shildt has been gone for a couple of seasons, do you have more appreciation for the job he did here, less appreciation, or pretty much about the same?
I would say about the same. I don't know that Shildt being the manager changes the arc of 2023. I thought a lot of Marmole's work during the 2022 regular season.
Yep.
I did not think a lot of his work in the playoffs, particularly handling Ryan Helsley. And in 2023, I don't know how much to attribute to him. I don't know how much not to in terms of what went wrong. So I'm kind of I guess I'm a Marmole agnostic going into 2024, and that I just don't know what to think. So that, by extension, makes it hard for me to answer the Shildt question because I just don't know how it would have gone. And, I don't see any huge tactical advantages that Marmole has over Shildt. Or I don't know that Shildt ran a smoother clubhouse than Marmole did. Maybe he did. But, I think the roster problems overwhelm those kind of considerations.
Yeah, that's why the slack or the defense I have for Marmole, and I wasn't real pleased by the disintegration of their defense and base running, and I just think that kind of thing's pretty inexcusable, and somebody's got to own that. But I also realized that there was almost everything was nullified because when you have a starting rotation that's that bad. Who's going to win with that? I mean, maybe they could have won more, but who's going to win? I give them the benefit of the doubt in that area because he's not the reason why their starting pitching was bad. I mean, it's not even close. That's nothing to do with him. That's a front office thing.
Right.
So
it's just hard to answer the question considering that, as you mentioned, the rotation he was given. I'm not sure anybody was going to win with that.
I wrote something, at Scoops about this. The Cardinals in the last couple of seasons. I think it started in 21 maybe. See, I can't even remember my own work now. But the Cardinals, who used to be mediocre would be the word against right-handed pitching. With Donovan in the mix and Gorman in the mix and Nootbaar in the mix. Maybe a couple role players here and there. I mean, they the last couple of years they've been good against right-handed pitching. Mm-hmm. Where I know this fact. I remember that. If you look at WRC weighted runs created plus, Cardinals were in the top 10 in the majors against righties and lefties, and so that's really encouraging. But it also makes me nervous because what if they end up trading Gorman or Donovan or Nootbaar, because those guys clearly have had an impact in making this lineup more balanced, and also more effective.
Yeah, I'm very much hoping that none of those three guys goes, and that's why I would prefer a free agency first approach to kind of address those top two spots in the rotation that need improvement. If there's a trade where you end up taking on a lot of money, like say Glasnow, then you're not going to have to give up one of those guys most likely. But that's a whole other set of risks. As much as I like the idea of adding Tyler Glasnow, So yeah, I'll be disappointed if one of those guys goes, because they're pretty important to the way the lineup flows, as you mentioned.
A couple more things for our friend Dayn Perry. Birdie Work at Substack. Again, it's an excellent blog. It's a bargain rate to read it. I look forward to it every time one of them pops up in my my email box. And again, first of all, you follow Dayn at Twitter at Dayn Perry, but also, again, all you got to do is just do a Google search, his name and Birdie Work, and you'll see it. Hey, what's up? Before I ask you your question, I'm impressed and maybe a bit envious of your talent, your artistic talent with your use of AI, I guess, to create logos for your blog. You got to tell me about that. The stuff that it's really, really good, and I'm not blowing smoke. It's really, really good. So where did you
artistic talent consists of prompts.
Where'd you get that idea, and how do you pull it off?
There's a thing called Open AI Labs, and you just type in Paul Goldschmidt signing a contract or a Cardinal spending money, and it spits out these images. So I have very little to do with it. This is my way of paying the AI gods in advance for when they come for my job.
Listen to you. Well said. No, I mean the artwork is phenomenal. I mean, it really is. I'm like, wow, this is good. And you change it up, and it's good. So that's another reason why people need to subscribe. You get art with it, not just the art of writing. You get actual art. Hey, before we part for now, two questions. I'll just give you a 2-for-1 because you can include in one answer. How surprised were you by the Phillies blowing that series? And number 2, do you have any initial thoughts on the World Series? I mean, I'm not going to try to wrestle you to make a prediction. That's not my point, because predictions are kind of, at this time of year, make predictions at your own risk. But anyway, how do you assess the World Series, and how much of a blown opportunity was this with the Phillies? All due respect to the Diamondbacks, the Phillies just obviously fell apart.
Yeah, I generally am not surprised by any playoff outcome, but the Phillies going up in the series and then blowing it to a team that has a negative rush differential and won 84 games was hugely surprising. Particularly how I felt that that Phillies roster seemed to be well assembled to do well, and it was hugely surprising. As for the World Series that we have, I think the Diamondbacks shape up better than many people probably realize based on the differences in records. But I think that Texas offense is just going to be too much for them, and I expect the Rangers to win it for the first time in franchise history.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, too. Hey, Dayn, come back soon, man, and thank you for all you do at CBSSports.com, but also with your Birdie Work blog on Substack. And I encourage people to subscribe. It's hardly cost prohibitive. It's a bargain rate. And Dayn, taps into his long-term knowledge of analytics, but he doesn't overwhelm you with it. And he's such a good writer, and it's really, really good. So keep Birdie Work, make it stronger, and keep it stronger. That's my pitch to you. Thank you, man.
All right, thanks, Bernie. Always appreciate it.
That's our good friend, and love having him on, Dayn Perry. Oh, okay. Solly just texted me, producer Dave Solomon. SLU High wide receiver Ryan Wingo has committed to Texas. Well, good for him. I don't know what to say.
The rest of the world thought he was going to Mizzou. It's not happening.
I never assume anything. And then I have a long-standing policy on this.
Yes.
It goes way, 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 way back. When Jahidi White at Cardinal Ritter, everybody's saying, well, Mizzou's going to get him. I hear, this person told me and that person told me, and, Mizzou's in great shape. And he's the center they need. Oh, this will be great. And he commits to Georgetown, and then he was like the enemy of the people, People were the stuff that people were saying about him and writing about him, and you go to message boards, you go to Mizzou forums. I mean, it's like, will you all – you can be a fanatic about your team no matter who your team is. this would apply to any fan base. You realize that, especially someone that young, and he's literally a teenager. He gets to make a choice about what he wants to do.
Yes.
Is it can we give him the freedom to make the choice without demonizing him? So that thing, it was such a horrendous experience to watch that. And I know it really upset his family and people near him. They were just like stunned at how vicious people were, because he decided he wanted to go play for, John Thompson at Georgetown. And why wouldn't he? And I thought, I will never criticize a high school kid, a teenager, for whatever recruiting choice, whatever choice of a scholarship he accepts.
It's his decision.
No, it's not. Mizzou fans get to make the decision. But again, it's not Mizzou fans. It's about just the whole culture around that. And I heard Wingo's great, and he probably is. And it's not like he's being a little goofy at all. Well, he's not goofy at all. So he wants to go play for an up-and-coming program and a really good offensive-minded coach. Oh, and you got Arch Manning waiting in the wings. There's
a lot of reasons there.
And you got a lot of that. There was a time where if I said this, people would say, well, you're saying like they're paying them. No. That's what NIL is. They're paying you.
Yes.
And having familiarized myself when I was living in Texas with the way the Longhorns roll, and all them oil men, and all them ranchers, if they want a player, and now that they have NIL, son, name your price.
That's right.
You can come on down. We'd love to have you.
That's how SMU became the Pony Express. So.
Yeah, but you couldn't do it then. Now you can.
But now you can.
It's like, did you watch Friday Night Lights? I love that show.
I watched a little bit of it.
I'm
yes.
rewatching it again.
Yep.
That in the first season, that scene where there's a kid because of Hurricane Katrina. His family's displaced. He has to move out of Louisiana. He happens to be like a 5-star quarterback recruit. And Buddy Garrity, local car dealer, and a total booster, Dylan High,
Yep.
the Panthers. He wants him bad, and Coach Taylor not so sure about it. And but Buddy makes a deal with his family, and it doesn't work out. It doesn't work out. Voodoo. He was just called Voodoo. It didn't work out, and now and they got in trouble because he signed with them,
Right.
Anyway, wouldn't have to worry about it, because I think even on the high school level, NIL stuff is not exactly, criminal. I think people tend to find ways to get stuff done. It's just funny. But anyway, no, Ryan Wingo, and I'm not, in no way am I making the voodoo reference. That has nothing to do with him. I'm just saying the way things are, though, man. Go where you want, do what you want, have fun, man. Make it the best experience you can. And if something doesn't work out, and sometimes that happens, Mizzou's got some wide receivers the last 3 years who were transfers who have done really, really well and are really, really happy. So you never know. But good for him. I'm happy for him if that's what he wants.
Absolutely.
That's my bottom line.